Hey, what is going on you guys? It's Epic here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. We're back in the Wonderlands of course, and today I'm going to be showing you all my endgame Clawbringer build for Chaos 20 solo. Now I do want to set some expectations here before we go any further. This is not a build which is going to blow your mind by any means, and the reason for this is because right now in Wonderlands the Clawbringer is factually just the worst class in the game, meaning it is obviously going to be the hardest class to make work, and as such you might see a ton of min-maxing. And yeah, I'm sorry for that, but it's just what you've kind of got to do right now because the Clawbringer is just so insanely bad. But in terms of performance, you can go ahead and mob with this thing, you can boss with this thing, you can take it into the Chaos Chamber and solo an extended run if that's what you wish to do. And yeah, this build took a lot of thought and a lot of preparation to get working, but I'm kind of happy with where I've got it now. I may be thinking it could be better, but I don't want to make this just an all volatile gear build. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the skill tree. And with this build, we are of course going to be hybriding with the Spellshot class because it has the most gun damage in the game, and as the Clawbringer, Lord knows we need that because our ability damage is just so stupendously low. Let me go ahead and take off my armor set here so you can see all of the skills that we've got. And what's important to note about this is that while we are in the left tree for Clawbringer, we're only really getting the most use out of the first half of the tree. Anything past Blasphemous Favor you just do not really need, and I want to make an additional note about one skill that I have spec'd here, and it's the Firebolt skill. So the Firebolt skill makes it so that your Wyvern Companion will occasionally shoot firebolts at enemies, but that's not why we have it spec'd. We have it spec'd for the 8% gun damage bonus it gives us because while it's a small value, it's still helpful. However, depending on who you are as a player, you might not want to spec this skill. In my testing with Psychotic Wolf, another YouTuber, we found that sometimes the Firebolt will straight subtract 8% gun damage from you, and while it is super uncommon that it happens, it does indeed happen. So just be careful of that when you spec this skill, and if it bothers you that much, just don't take it overall. And just some extra notes about the Spellshot tree that we have here. We do not take double knot because we are using the Buffmeister with this build because again, the Clawbringer just straight up needs it, and as such spell critical hits just don't really happen, they don't really count, and I'm pretty sure that while you're Buffmeistered, your gun critical hits don't count as spell critical hits. So yeah, so lots of spaghetti there, but yeah, we just do not need double knot. While it is a lot of damage, trust me, we are not going to be using it at all, so that's something to pay attention to. What is also important to note is that Warcaster 5 out of 5 is going to be very, very, very important for the mobbing part of this build because there's one gun that relies on this a lot. And while we would get more use out of using the Ambidextrous exploit, we're actually going with the Storm Dragon's Judgment, not for damage because the Clawbringer has none of that, but rather to proc and anoint. Now into our gear, first of all, we've got the Liquid Cooling. This drops from Lycia in Crackmast Cove at the Obelisk, and this thing is really, really, really powerful when it comes to overall mobbing and bossing. Definitely pick yourself up one of these, it's very important. I'll quickly go through our array of purples as well. First of all, we've got a Shrike TD or shotgun. If you can get this in cryo, it would be even better. I've got mine with no element, but luckily it is volatile, making it very, very powerful. Big shout out to the Priesticles. It was his idea to use one of these, and man, wow, it really paid off because this thing is super strong. I've got our Sandhawk, which I've already got a video up on the channel. Basically, these are just random purples that you can find. I'd recommend going and farming the bunnies if you want to get them. But yeah, get a ×4 Nightshade here. Again, volatile would be great if you can get it, but don't stress. I've also got here a little handheld Hydra Throne Tedior, again in volatile, and if I could get it cryo, then I would love to make it cryo, but unfortunately, I only have shock. This is what you'll see when I kill Parasite. I'll chuck down a bunch of these Hydras, and that will help me with my kill overall. Then for my mobbing shotgun, we've got the Last Rites of the Sunless Depths, and I've got this in volatile because blue mission reward items in this game cannot roll enchantments. So yeah, I mean, if you've got a save editor at your hand, put an anointment on it, but I cannot do that, so I've got it in volatile instead. Now, as for where to get this thing, it drops from a side mission in Walktooth Shallow, I believe it's called, And while I can't tell you what the name of the quest is because quest logs in this game are bugged, go figure, it is the ghost guy on, I think, the right side of the map. You just want to complete that quest and you'll get this amazing shotgun, and we'll talk about this a little bit more soon. Now, our melee weapon really does not matter here. It's just here to give us an anointment. If the Maced Wardu wasn't such arse, I would use it as a tie-in for that, but instead it's just here for an anointment. I've got on spellcast gun damage 30, but you can change that up depending depending on what you like most with the build. And now moving down into our equipment slot, for my rings, I have a duplicate 17% gun damage ring, and I've got ward is not full, effects are increased 100%, because with this build you're always going to be losing your shield, and pretty much any build in this game because enemies deal so much damage. So as a result, you're always going to be getting 34% out of each ring. Now for our shield here, we've got the Cursed Wit. I believe this drops from Aribula, and the Cursed Wit is really good because it means that while our ward is depleted, we're going to get 17% damage reduction and 100% increased damage dealt to nearby enemies, which again is great because we never have our shield up anyway. So yeah, the Cursed Wit is great, and you can also see I've got 40% gun damage on that on action skill start. That's going to come in handy with our hammer. Now for our amulet, I would like a legendary one with an effect if possible, but you're looking for Spellshot power with either gun damage or frost damage as the other primary attribute, and all damage dealt and cooldown rate or reload speed in the passives if you can get them. Now for our spell, we've got the Buffmeister. This is a well dropped spell, so if you want to get it, I'd recommend farming the bunnies in the Chaos Chamber, and again, if you can get it in chaotic or volatile, please go ahead and do so. But the element you are going to need is Cryo. Cryo is the all-round king for this, and for my anointment, you can see I've got increased damage dealt by 20% on action skill start. So again, we're really leaning into Storm Dragon's Judgment to proc our anoints here. And then finally, for our armor set, we've got the Amalgam. Now, I chose the Amalgam because being a Clawbringer, we're going to need all the boosts we can get, so all of those passives are going to help. However, if you can get your hand on it, I'd also recommend a Smart Armor. Those are great too. Now, the important part when you're picking out your armor set here is to not worry about finding Clawbringer power. We are strictly looking for Spellshot power and 1 point into high thread count. That's the skill in the middle there. We're doing this because we want as many spell weaving stacks as possible to give us the most gun damage possible. So make sure that when you're looking for your armor set, you get as much Spellshot power as you possibly can, and also high thread count, which is very, very important. And then for your passives, if you can manage it, get spell damage, fire rate, and I know some can also roll gun damage. So yeah, very important there. And just another rule of thumb when it comes to armor sets, when you're going for high thread count, it can only roll on Spellshot Berserker combos or Spellshot Spore Warden combos. So remember, you really want to go and get that 1 point into high thread count. Very, very important stuff. Now in the backpack here, I've got some other goodies. One of them is this Loot Luck Amulet. This is just going to help you when you're looting. I'd recommend putting this on anytime you're opening chests or whatever it may be for loot. This is great for increasing the amount of drops you're going to get. And then I've also got the Ruby Spite here, and while I don't use it too often, it is a pretty nice dark magic weapon for when you need it. The Ruby Spite drops from the Monstrous Shroom in the Weepbar Dankness. Now the reason why we do not care about getting any Clawbringer power is because quite frankly, the Clawbringer at endgame in Wonderlands does not deal any damage with any of its abilities or any of its skills for that matter, apart from Blasphemous Favor, but it's really not worth boosting into your Clawbringer power. Now sure, it would be nice to get some extra bonuses into some of our skills and would probably make Clawbringer a lot more viable as a class, but in return it means that we miss out on the combo of Spellshot Spore Warden or Berserker, and as such we cannot get that extra point into high thread count, which is very, very important. The main rule of thumb with this build is going to be making sure that your spell weaving stacks are maxed out at all times. You can do this by reloading or casting a spell. That's why we have this TD or Hydra here, because not only does it deal good damage, but we can also spam it out to get up our spell weaving stacks in the bottom of the screen there. And for our max stack count, we have 11. So if we get this all the way up to 11, it's going to boost our damage tenfold and mean that when we go ahead and shoot something, we'll deal way more damage as a result. Now when it comes to the gameplay loop for this build, like I said, it's mainly going to revolve around using your spell weaving stacks to your advantage, so keeping them up at all times, and while your spell weaving stacks are up, popping your Buffmeister, chucking your hammer, and that's going to proc all of your anoints, and then you can just melt enemies a lot faster as a result. This build relies a lot on momentum, so it's important to keep it up and never really slow down, allowing yourself to get taken advantage of. So if something's not working for you, it's a good idea to always just swap to a different weapon and melt enemies with that instead. There are just some enemies in this game that are a lot more tanky to some damage than others, so for that reason it's important to remember that you've got a diverse arsenal at your disposal and you should use it well. Now if you want to download this build, you can find the link for it in the description down below just by joining my Discord server and checking out the save files channel. You'll be able to get it just like that. And yeah, I mean, that's about it for this build. If you guys have any improvements you think we could make to it, let me know in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me, and I'll see you all in the next one.